every church, when a vacancy's been announced, there'll be all sorts of different viewpoints. Some people will be quite relieved, perhaps. Some people will be quite distressed. Someone that they've really come to love is leaving. They might be thinking to themselves, oh gosh, this is going to be really hard work. Others will be approaching it with a much more positive frame of mind and will be thinking, this is a real opportunity.
We've produced some materials we hope will be helpful to every church as they approach a vacancy. They're called Growing Through a Vacancy. We have a handbook which we hope that all clergy and wardens will read, perhaps long before a vacancy, because there's some general wisdom and some suggestions of how to prepare in the long term. We've also produced a brief guide which we hope that all PCC members will read when a vacancy is announced.
I was quite daunted by the thought of going into a vacancy because I hadn't got a clue what we were going to do and how we were going to go about it. But then, having had a look through the Growing Through Your Vacancy handbook, I felt quite excited by the challenge of keeping the church going and potentially growing the church whilst we were still looking for a replacement vicar.
It was very helpful to look at the research. It was done among 40 churches in different parts of the country, which were just about to go through vacancy or had been through vacancy quite recently. And I think it threw up a number of important issues.
We found with these 40 churches that on average they lost one person in 6 from their attendance over the vacancy period.
One of the biggest surprises for me was how it's often churches that have been best led that suffer the most in vacancies.
I think the worst thing that can happen in a vacancy is where there's a lot of disunity within the church family and disagreement over the vacancy process, as well as continuing the daily life of the church.
We were going to have to work, of course, with the diocese, and we were going to have to work with 2 sister churches, and we didn't know how that would pan out. We wanted to do better than just keep the church going.
Feel sometimes a bit insignificant in a large church, particularly if there isn't someone like a vicar looking out for you. So it's quite easy to slip away and for no one to notice. And if that happens a number of times, then you might think, I'm not really needed here, no one notices. There's quite a big difference between a vacancy that lasts up to 6 months and one that goes on longer. So sometimes for 6 months everything can be really good, but a lot of people get exhausted, particularly if the jobs everyday jobs in a church don't get shared around enough. After 6 months, often the people that have been taking them on are tired, and so things can become much more difficult.
People start dropping off from churches really quite rapidly, and so the shorter a vacancy, the better in that sense. The people who've been brought in by the vicar, perhaps, or by others in the last couple of years, tend to be the ones who just gradually drift away.
We found that vacancies between vicars in the Church of England have been getting longer, and that most churches' attendance went down a lot during the vacancy period and wasn't really coming back up in the first year of the new incumbent. But we also discovered that it doesn't have to be like that.